Richie Bradshaw, Locked On Sun Devils, Washington State, and Oregon State. This is the age-old question now that they have stayed in the Pac-12 but effectively lost their conference. What if the Big 12 takes two schools that are very good at producing NFL caliber talent, being TV viewership gold mines, like two of the more watched schools in the Pac-12, two schools that have won recently in football, that still have investment. Kirk Schultz of Washington State was very involved in the college football playoff committee. With the way their TV numbers are, with the way they've produced NFL caliber talent, with the way they've held together the Pac-12 as an impeccable business venture, is it at least worth looking at adding a fourth time zone to the Big 12 via Washington State and Oregon State, especially on a half share?
Yeah, but why not? I mean, that's one of the biggest points that you can bring up right there, Drake, is they are producing so many good football players and coaches that are just getting plucked from them. I mean, you just had the head coach from Washington State move on. You just had a couple of years ago the head coach from Oregon State move on. You've seen quarterbacks move on. You've seen all sorts of players go to other locations and have terrific success. And it's not the fault of the schools that these kids don't stay. It's the fault of the Pac-12 for everything that collapsed, because if there was no issue like that, I mean, Damian Martinez, who just killed it in Miami, is probably still at Oregon State. And if Washington State is able to hold on to John Mateer, they're going to be another good team. So I think that adding those two teams who know how to identify talent and have gotten the most out of their talent, putting them in a conference that will actually spotlight them, get them on ESPN, even if it's ESPN Plus, that sounds a lot better than the CW. No offense to the CW. It's a great opportunity for them to finally hold on to those guys. And honestly, there's a part of me that does feel not so much guilty, but like they deserve it. Like, They got absolutely mollywopped by everything that was going on with conference realignment. So bring them in. I love those two. I love those two schools. Absolutely.
They also beat Texas Tech last year, so that shows they can still win even with
true.
Those players transferring. Jake Dickert probably stays as well, and the Oregon State guy, I don't even remember the guy's name, who left for Michigan State, Jonathan Smith. They probably stay if given the opportunity to continue to coach the Power 5 level with these two schools. I think with the right, we saw it with BYU, with the right conference affiliation and media exposure, Oregon State and Washington State have the potential to further grow their viewership. Being in a more prominent conference like the Big 12 could lead to that increased national attention and higher ratings. But you start to think, okay, do we get anything from that? And yes, like the CW, as you mentioned, Oregon State, Washington State drew 700,000 viewers on the CW, which put schools like SMU to shame, like other Power 4 like Boston College to shame. People watch these two universities. You're like, okay, well, it's a one-off. And well, it's what? How about a game between Oregon State, Colorado State on the CW? 570,000 viewers, and you have to actively try to find the CW. It doesn't find you. You have to hunt down that TV channel unless you're watching Superman and Lois. That's it. It's either that or trying to find a Washington State, Oregon State game. And those numbers, to me, should be enough to, at the very least, perk up Brett Yormark's ears. And, Richie, make them be SMU. Don't give them a full share. Give them a half share. Give them a three-quarter share. None of us take a huge hit, and you have two schools that give you markets like a Portland or a Seattle where so many alumni from these two universities reside.
Yep. And I do admire the Pac-12 doing what they can to rebuild. But the biggest thing that I've seen is it's just the Mountain West. They're not able to pull Memphis and Tulane and any schools like that. So sure, maybe the Pac-12 gets remade, but it's the Mountain West, and that doesn't feel...
Well, it seems like we have lost Richie there for a second, but I want to continue on that point. Here is where it becomes pretty easy for me to welcome Washington State and Oregon State into the Big 12 Conference. It is the idea you have two universities that do not have to come as full paid members. They're not going to take a large chunk of your money. We see Washington State flying the flag at College Game Day. They've got the brand. We see that Oregon State has fought via the way they kept the Pac-12 together to remain a power school, to remain in a power conference. And that, at the very least, should perk your ears, should point your attention there. And then when you find out we don't have to give them the same $35 million, the same $40 million, the same whatever it is from our ESPN contract, we can go to a TNT, we can go to a True TV, go to a CW and say, hey, look, would it just be cheaper to give us the money and put their games on your network? But we get some of the money in this Pac-12 deal. We don't have to experiment with it. We get to avoid an experiment with a major TV network. They get to avoid a risk. We accrue said risk for far cheaper and then utilize that risk to boost our conference. In the world of stocks, okay, if there's a $100 stock and someone says, yeah, but it's super volatile, what if we give it to you for $50? You say, yeah, that volatility could push the stock to $200. It could also push the stock to $25. But at $50, that's kind of a hill of beans when the rest of our stocks are all 100. And this has the opportunity to become a penny stock for us. Such a low amount we're putting into it that when it does boost, we win as a conference. More than that, more than all of that, I know money's got to be at the forefront of the conversation. TV viewership has to be at the forefront of the conversation. What really should be A1 when we talk about this is just doing the right thing. And I know that's dead in college football. Doing the right thing doesn't exist anymore. Why would we ever do something that costs us money? But helping the guy who's begging on the side of the road, it's kind of the right thing. If you're TCU, if you're Cincinnati, if you're Houston, if you're Colorado and Utah, for Arizona, for BYU, what if you, and some of you have been, what if you got left out on the street with no conference? The money's gone. The coaches are leaving. The players are leaving. You're second fiddle, third fiddle down the pipeline. You're an FCS school. You're an afterthought. You're a group of five school, whatever you are. What if your team, your organization, your program that had built so much to become something in college football saw it all pulled out from underneath you in one day and there was nothing you could do about it? Now, the Big 12 has put $50, not just toward a stock, but $50, they've saved, they're half off to the ASPCA. We're like, dang, man, even if it doesn't work out, we helped the sick animals. We helped the dogs get the rabies vaccine. And honestly, in turn, there are less dogs with rabies out there because we helped. Did we win in the end? Maybe not explicitly. But less dogs have rabies. We gave the ASPCA money. And there's still that chance that one day the ASPCA is like, we have $1 million idea. We're sending dogs to space. And that's when the stock goes from $50 to $200 and you're making money back. That's the way I view Oregon State, Washington State. I think they add value to the Big 12. I think it's something the conference should still legitimately consider. This has been It Always Will Be. Sorry, Richie. Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. A crossover between the Sun Devils and Dose Grande.